What we're going to do is yesterday I mentioned that we'll be working on hacking different machines and performing CTFs and stuff. So that is what we're going to do. And the first system that I told you that would be working on is Metasploitable. So I imagine you all have that on your system by now. If not, just get it set up as soon as possible so you can practice. Now what I'll be doing is, again I'll be switching over to my Linux. So yesterday we saw that uh, our target had the IP of 10.0.2.252. This was the target IP. Okay, so based on this, now we're going to run some scans on this. Okay, so our Metasploitable machine is up and running. Now, the first thing to do is always to run a basic Nmap scan, see what information you get. Okay, out of the 1000 ports that it scans by default, 22 are open. Now, okay, this is an unusually high number, but since this is a machine specifically for practicing exploitation, that's why they have kept so many open ports. Okay, so now always if you want to perform a scan, it's better to be thorough and do a scan for all ports rather than just for the most common 1000 ports. So when you scan all ports, it is showing us that there are a total of, how many are there? Okay, almost 30 open ports are present. Again, this is, like I mentioned, quite unusual. You'll not really find these many open ports on most systems that you test, or even on most CTFs that you solve. You'll not find these many ports open. Okay, so now that we've run a basic scan, we
Hello,
can try
sir.
to
Are
get
you
a.
talking? I'm not able to hear you at all.
Hello, am I not audible to you guys? Hello.
Hello, sir.
Okay, how about now?
Okay, sir.
You are able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what we did was, see, yesterday we had figured out the IP of our target, which was this. Today, so far what we've done is, first we ran a simple Nmap scan. We found that there were 22 ports open. By default, it checks for 1000 most common ports, and out of those, 22 were open. When we checked for all ports with the hyphen p hyphen option, for which specifies Nmap that we want to check all ports. So in that case, we have almost 30 open ports on this target. So now we do a slightly more detailed scan. Okay, so I can do an aggressive scan here. So who can tell me what an aggressive scan means?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Have you explained a lot of things because I missed everything? I was not able to hear you.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. See, we just ran a couple of scans with Nmap. That's it. Okay, we ran a scan. We found 22 open ports.
Okay.
Then we ran a scan for all ports and we found almost 30 open ports.
Yeah.
And the next thing is I'm running an aggressive scan. So I'm saying, what does an aggressive scan include? Can anyone tell me?
Sir, for more better scan, for gaining better information.
Yes, that is, of course, the case. But what about the type of scans that it includes?
Does it include like filtered or unfiltered open code and everything?
Operating
And which type
service.
of, yeah,
See,
operating systems and all?
includes service version detection, script scan, operating system detection, as well as trace route. Okay. So again, since it includes script scanning, it takes a little more time comparatively. Excuse me. Okay, so the scan results are in. Let's see. So what happens here is it includes service version detection, script scanning. So whatever scripts it thinks are relevant, it's going to run those relevant to the ports that it finds open. So out of all these scripts, for FTP, we have a couple of scripts that ran. So the first is anonymous FTP. So anonymous FTP login was allowed on this system. Now on an FTP server, FTP is file transfer protocol. You can like upload files and allow other people to connect to that server and download those files. So if you haven't configured it properly, then anonymous login might be allowed where you can log into that server with username and password both as anonymous.
Sir, your script running with respect to that port means like It will check for that port open and everything. Like we can access. It's kind of exploitation. Exploitation script.
Some scripts can be exploitative as well, yes, definitely. But the number of exploitative scripts in Nmap is very low. So most of them are not going to do any kind of exploitation. But of course, yes, there are some scripts which can do that. Okay. So similarly, this was for FTP for other protocols or for other ports that are open. So for SSH is running on port 22, which is the default. So since it's also including a version detection, service version detection, so it's telling you what service is running on that port. And similarly for other protocols, it tells you the versions and if there are any relevant scripts, it will try to run those as well. Now out of the results from the script scan, okay, one thing that we find out is the name of the system is metasploitable. In case this information was not known to you before, the scan can tell you that the name is metasploitable the service based on the services that are running, basically NetBIOS in this case. So it figured out the name or the host name for that system. Now we already know the host name in this case because we have installed this system ourselves on our own virtual machines. So we know. Okay, now out of these, when it comes to exploiting some vulnerability within the system, the only thing that looks somewhat useful to us here is the anonymous login for FTP. So let me try that. So to log into FTP, you need to say FTP and the IP address. So this is the IP. Now, since anonymous login is allowed according to Nmap, so I can log in with username and password anonymous. Okay, so login successful. That means I have logged into the FTP server. If I do an ls,
There is no password, right?
password is anonymous.
Same thing. Okay.
Yeah. For FTP, whenever you find FTP service running on any target, you should always check if anonymous login is allowed or not. If you are doing a script scan, then of course Nmap is going to do that and tell you. So if you are able to log in with username anonymous and password anonymous, just like we were able to do here, you may find some files on the FTP server which you could use. Now in our case, this is an empty server, empty FTP server, so there's nothing. There are no files to look at, nothing to download. So there's no point in continuing accessing the server. We can simply exit. Now coming back to our Nmap results. Okay. Sorry. There are a couple of things you can do just by looking at these results. Now, if you look at this scan result, okay, I think I should do a service version detection here to make it clearer what I'm looking for. Now I'm doing service version detection because the output is much cleaner than a script scan. From these results, can you tell me what we can do, or can you tell me one service that is running which would immediately give us terminal access on our target system? No. See, this, look at this particular result. It says that on port 1524, there's it's open. Service running is bind shell, and the version, in the version details, it says that it's a metasploitable root shell. So there's already an inbuilt root shell running on this system. All I have to do is connect to it. So what can I do to simply connect to any service that is running on a particular port on my target? What tool can I use for that? There is a tool in Linux known as Netcat. Okay, so that is used to both connect two services as well as open a port on your system and listen for incoming connections. So we can use that here. The syntax is NC for Netcat, and the IP as well as the port. And if you want it to be a little verbose, then add -v for verbosity. Okay, probably not here. And of course the port. So now in this case, the port is 1524. So I'll specify that. Press enter, and you now have a root shell on your metasploitable system. So who am I? I'm root, and the system is Linux metasploitable. So we already have root access on the system. If you just connect to the root shell service that is already running there. So now again, it would not be this easy for the CTFs, other CTFs that we look at, that you just connect to a service and get root access. So that's not going to be the case. But in case of Metasploitable, they have made it very easy to exploit. That's why we were able to pull this off. Okay, now let's look at getting root access in other ways. Okay. Now I mentioned there is the tool Metasploit itself. So we can make use of that now. But what I want to do, or what I need to do before that, is that I'll run a vulnerability scan with nmap. So script is equal to 1. So the vulnerability scanning scripts will be running now. And of course, I want this to be for all ports. A vulnerability scan can usually take a little bit of time, which is normal for this kind of scan. Okay, this is taking a bit of time. Okay, and we have the scan results back.
So for aggressive scan, it's a hyphen capital A, right?
Capital A, yeah. This one, the one that we ran currently, this is a vulnerability scan. So script is equal to 1. Now, for our FTP service, the first result that shows up in the scan, we can see that the service that is running, which is VSFTPD version 2.3.4, it has a backdoor and it says vulnerable. So the FTP service on our target is vulnerable to this kind of attack. And okay, so this is the vulnerability. Now we know that there is one service that we can easily exploit.
So for me, that aggressive
Hmm.
scan gave me different results. I didn't get the vulnerability and bank too.
Different results. What results
Less I got actually.
from this?
Yeah, can I share my screen?
Yeah, okay, one moment. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Uh, I got all ports here.
Hmm.
Then in aggressive scan, only this much I have.
Try downloading Metasploitable again, because are not the results that you should be getting. Like, you're not getting the proper results here.
Okay, actually, it got aborted 2 times just now. I don't know, maybe because of
Scan
that.
got aborted.
Yeah, this Metasploit.
Why? What did it say?
No, it was giving some buffer overflow or something. It gave some errors, and I restarted 2, 3 times. Then it started.
This Metasploitable.
Yes.
Okay. I think just download it again. Just remove this one.
Okay.
Download it again. Set it up again.
Okay. Yeah.
And okay, are you sure that you have enough RAM to run both VMs at the same time?
Yes, from 2, 3 days I'm doing this. I'm practicing all those things.
Okay.
Today only I got. I'm having 16 GB RAM.
Okay. Yeah, that is more than enough for this purpose. Yeah. So RAM is not the issue. Okay. So yeah, just download it and download it again and set it up, because I think there's some issue with this
Okay.
one. Maybe something got corrupted during the download. It happens sometimes.
No, it's
But
long
it's
back I have downloaded and I was using. But today only when I started that virtual machine, it got aborted.
but see, okay, that error, okay, even that is rare. It can happen. But the thing you're getting here is that your scan results, even how many ports are you getting open in this case? I don't think you're getting the entire
Yes,
result here. See,
yes,
so it's showing less than 20 open ports in your case.
yeah.
So even with a default scan, we have at least 22 open ports.
Okay.
Default as in, when we don't specify any options, we're getting at least 22. And in your case, it's showing you like 17 or 18 ports open at most.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, I'll
So
try that. Downloading.
there might be an issue with your Metasploitable VM that got downloaded. So
Okay.
that's why I recommend that you just re-download it and set it up again.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because see, in my case, I'm getting 30 open ports for the complete scan. I'm getting 30 open ports, and for the default scan, I'm getting 22 open ports here. Out of 1000, 978 are closed and 22 are open. So that is how Metasploitable should be behaving.
And check once again. I'll download that.
Yeah, just try that. That should fix the issue.
Okay.
Okay, okay, yeah, I was looking at this vulnerability scan results. I was looking at the results, and I was talking about this particular vulnerability, the VS FTPD version 2.3.4 backdoor. Now we know that this vulnerability exists. Now you cannot exploit this using Nmap, because Nmap is not really built for that. I said that there are some scripts that perform exploitation, but there are very few of those. If I want to exploit this, I can use Metasploit instead. So I come to another tab, I open MSF console, which is the command to open Metasploit. And I could have done it in the same tab, but I want to have this result side by side. So just open up a new one, ran MSF console, and Metasploit should open up in a couple of minutes.
What I'm getting this error for a Metasploit, that is an automatic file system check of the root file system failed. A manual FSCK must be performed, then the system restarted. The FSCK should be performed in maintenance mode with the root file system mounted in read-only mode.
This error you are getting with Metasploitable.
Yes, sir. And again, that metasploitable root, unexpected inconsistency, run FSCK manually.
Do you
FSCK
have that
guide,
on your sorry,
sorry,
do you have that on your screen currently? Can you share it with me?
yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. An automatic file system check. Okay, FSCK failed. Right. Okay. Yeah. So definitely this means that your Metasploitable installation is corrupted.
Corrected.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll install once again.
Yeah. That should work. I mean, you could go through these checks yourself. You could run FSCK on the system yourself. But if it is corrupted, I think, if your download itself is corrupted, then you should just re-download it and
No, sir, like
set it up.
this I have used for CH also. That time it was working. Now today only don't know. Suddenly it got aborted. It gave some errors, and I had to close that. Then 2 3 times I did. Then now I'm getting these errors.
So on the hard disk where you have installed this, like your virtual machine hard disk file, wherever it is present,
Ah,
do you have enough space there? Sometimes it happens when space fills up, so we get these kind of issues.
okay.
So make sure that you have
Check.
space there.
Yeah, 32 GB is the
32 GB is there. Okay, so space will not be the issue. Then I guess it's just that the installation got corrupted.
maybe it is in OneDrive. I 32 GB is used.
Just try setting it up once again. I think you should
Okay.
be issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Somehow, just one way or the another, that installation has gotten corrupted. That is for sure.
Okay. Okay. I'll check.
Just do it separately. Okay, like not separately. Do it once again, and you should be able to have it running properly.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming back to this, this is our okay. Metasploit is open now. Now Metasploit has a lot of modules that you can use. Okay, but of course, there's no way you will be remembering every module. So if you're looking for something particular, you can use a search. The command is simply search, and whatever term you want, whatever keyword you are looking for, you can type that here. So in our case, if I look back here, the service that is in question is VSFTPD. So that is the FTP software that is running, and particularly version 2.3.4. So with search, I can use simply VSFTPD, and if I press enter, okay, so Metasploit only has one module related to VSFTPD, which is this exploit Unix FTP VSFTPD 2.3.4 backdoor. And that's the description as well. Version 2.3.4 backdoor command execution, which is exactly what we need. So 2.3.4 VSFTPD. So this works for us. Now I want to use this module, so I'll say use. And now I have two options. Since I have this as the search result, I'll say use 0, or I can just copy paste this use exploit Unix FTP. I'll just say use 0. Okay. Now I need to show options. Like I need to see options. So I'll type show options. So we need to set certain parameters for our module to work on. In this case, we have only two. The port, which is by default set to 21 because FTP works on port 21 by default. So that is set to 21. We don't need to do anything. Our FTP server that is in question, that is also running on port 21. The only option we need to set is our hosts, which is the target host. In case you have multiple hosts, you can specify a file containing all those IPs, but we just have one. So we'll say set hosts, our hosts, and the IP I'm going to use, which is 10.0.2.252. So this is our target IP, and that was the only option that I needed to configure. So now I'll just say run. So this exploit is being run by Metasploit, and it's telling us step by step, okay, that this is the banner that was received. It asks you for the password when it entered the required string, when it performed the exploit. Backdoor has been spawned, and it's also telling you the user ID, so it's root. So basically this means we have again root shell access to this particular target machine. We exploited a vulnerability which was present in the FTP software that was running, and by exploiting that vulnerability we now have root access on our target. So again, this is another way to get root access on Metasploitable. Now in any CTF or in any penetration test, your end goal will be to be able to access your target as root or as admin. So root if on Linux, administrator if on Windows. So that depends. And with Metasploitable, they made it really easy to get root access, which will not be the case for other CTFs or other machines that you'll see. Technically, not technically, typically what happens with CTFs is you have some flag to capture. That's why they call it capture the flag. So it's mainly some kind of text which you need to find. So it's some text string which you need to find. And most CTFs that you solve will have two flags, a user flag and a root flag. Now a user flag is something that you will find in the a users directory. So let's say there are two users on a system. So the user flag will be present in one of those directories, one of their home directories, typically. Now, again, I'm not saying this is true for every CTF, but typically the user flag will be in the directory, the home directory belonging to one of those two users. And the second flag that is present is a root flag, which is present in the root directory. Now, if you are trying to get the root flag, you have to be able to access the root directory, and permissions for root directory are configured in such a way that only the root account has access to that. So
So
you
can you
need to
explain
perform.
you once again what you're
Yes,
explaining? I'm not clear like what all things are explained.
not clear.
Correctly. Yeah, can you explain once again?
See, I'm saying that we'll be solving CTFs, right? Capture the flags. So you'll have flags as in strings of text that you need to find. So it's like a puzzle basically. A CTF is like a puzzle that you need to solve or a challenge that you need to solve. And a typical CTF has two flags, a user flag and a root flag. User flag is typically found in the home directory for a user, and root flag is found in the root directory for that system. So if you are able to access the system login as a user, you'll be able to get the user account, a user flag. But for the root flag, you'll have to perform privilege escalation and get root access. Only then you'll be able to get the root flag. So that is the end goal of a CTF, to get the root flag. In order to do that, you need to have root access on that system. So with Metasploitable, we already have root access so far. We've seen a couple of ways to do that, and there are quite a few more as well. But this is not technically a CTF. Okay, Metasploitable is not a proper CTF, so there are no flags. Otherwise, normally what happens is, okay, let us see what directory we are currently in. So we are in the main directory. The flag is usually within the one flag is in the root directory, so one flag should be here. So if this were a proper CTF, you would see a file here known as root.txt, but that is not the case. Let's see if there's something within desktop. Okay, there's nothing. cd to the home directory. If there are any user, okay, I'll have to cd back to, okay, and now I can go into the home directory. If there are any user accounts, their home directories are present here. So we have an FTP accounts directory, we have one for MSF admin. So typically what would happen is, if you go into this MSF admin directory, you should see some kind of flag. But since this is not a typical CTF, there are no flags and there is nothing to basically do. Okay, so there is no post exploitation on this Metasploitable, but that is not going to be the case for other systems. So don't worry about that.
So
Metas-
flags is used, how it is used, like exactly for what you told, like user and the root. But apart
Hmm.
from that, like which type of flags and how we can use that.
A flag is simply a piece of text. Okay, so it's usually either a text file or it might be some text that is hidden in the source code of a program or within the source code for a web page. Okay, it will become clearer when we move on to the next system.
Okay.
Okay, uh, actually, even the next system is not a proper CTF. So, okay, no problem. I'll tell you how that works. So, like I said, when we went to the root directory here, there were just some typical files for the root user. In a CTF, in a proper CTF, you would see a file known as root.txt. So it's simply a text file and it would contain some piece of string. It would contain some text. And if you get that, that means you have solved this CTF. Okay. So the end goal is to get root access and get that root flag. Don't worry about all of that. I'll be showing you how that works. If it is not clear right now, just don't worry at all currently. Just give me a moment and I'll continue. I'm checking the URL for the next machine that I'm going to give you to solve. Not give you to solve, I mean, I'll be going through that. Okay, so after we finish working with Metasploitable, I'll be moving on to a different machine which is known as basic pen testing. Okay, so I'll just paste the URL for you in chat. Now again, this is simply an OVA file, so you don't have to do any kind of configuration. It's not an IO, so you don't have to install. All you need to do is just run this OVA file, and your virtual machine software will configure it, set it up, and you can access the VM. So I've given you a link for it. There's a website known as vulnhub.com. So it hosts all of these different machines which you can download and run on your system, and you can then hack into them. You can practice your penetration testing on these machines. So the first machine that we'll target after Metasploitable is going to be basic pen testing. So you can download it, set it up. After we're done with that, I'll give you the next link to the next one as well. Okay, now let's come back to Metasploitable. Let's see a few more exploitation vectors, and let's see how we can use them to our advantage. So we've seen VSFTPD, we've seen the root shell that was present. Okay, but there are quite a few other services that are running as well. This is, yes, this is a 2.6 GB file. So when you download it, I'm not saying you have to download it right now and set it up within this class. Just take your time, download it, set it up on your system, and that is the next one that I'll be working through. So I mean, of course, you need to have the all these links as I go through them in class, so you can practice. That's why I tell you to set them up. I'm not saying you have to just set it up along with me, but you should be having these links so you can practice as well. Okay, so coming back to our exploitation. Now there are some SSL attacks. It finds out, it performs HTTP enumeration. Now basically Metasploitable is also hosting some malicious websites. So they are also, you can hack them as well. But okay, that we leave for the web course. For now, we'll focus on other ways to hack into the system. Now see, there's another vulnerability in the dist CC daemon that is running on port 3632. We can try using Metasploit. Again, I'm going to search dist ccd. So there is one exploit found. We can try using that. Show options. Okay, I need to set the R hosts. What I can do is I can use set G R hosts. Now set G is set global. So for all modules that I use, it is going to set the value of R hosts as this value that I specify. So in our case, this is the IP for our target. So if I try to run it, see, it is going to give me an error saying a payload has not been selected. So in this case, what payload we can select is we want a cell, sorry, not cell, say shell, set payload CMD Unix, and it's telling us what kind of payload I want. So I just need a reverse shell so that I can get a reverse shell. I can work on it and be able to do whatever I want on my target. Again, show options. I need to set the L host. Again, I can do set G L host as which is my IP. The port again 4444 is being used by default. We'll just use that. It doesn't matter if I set another port, it's going to use another port. So why change it? So it's running the exploit and it's finally telling us that the command shell has been opened. Again, if I see who I am or who am I, I'm not root in this case now. I've just been able to get access as the daemon. So again, this is another way to access our Metasploitable system about this session. Now, if I just come back to this result that I have, okay, not the vulnerability scanning, just this one, this one that tells us the service version. So this is the result for the service version detection scan. Now there are quite a few services running here. You might have heard of something known as VNC. Has anyone heard of this or used this previously?
No, sir.
No. This is like RDP. Have you used RDP?
No.
No. Okay, no problem. See, there are certain protocols which allow you to remotely access a device and give you some kind of graphical interface on it as if you were actually using that device. See, SSH and Telnet, these give you command line access to a system, but VNC or virtual network computing gives you graphical user interface access to your target. So on Linux, we use VNC. So since our target is running Linux, it uses VNC. If it was using Windows, if our target were a Windows system and it would need to allow similar kind of access, they would be running a service known as RDP or Remote Desktop Protocol. We'll actually be using that in a later machine that we'll be working on. So you'll be able to see how that works as well. For VNC, okay, there is a tool on our system which is pre-installed, which is known as VNC Viewer. Okay, so using that, I can connect to a system that is running VNC. Okay, so directly it's just going to open this very small window, which is of no use to me. So VNC Viewer, and I need to specify the IP address. So the IP, of course, we know is this. And there needs to be a password for connection. Now I am not really aware of any such passwords. Okay, we don't have any such passwords for logging on. So what can I do in this case? Is there anything that could be done that might still give me access? See, there are some default kind of passwords, you can always try those and see if they work. Now it's kind of a you know, it's kind of a hit and miss. It may work, it might not work. We don't know. So some default passwords would be like, let's say admin itself, or not working. Let's try root. Not working. No problem. Let's try pass. Not working again. What about ABC123? Oh, sorry. I need to press enter. That's not working either. Let's try the word password itself. Okay, that worked. So now we have a connection through VNC. to our Metasploitable system. So it's giving us the desktop access. Now, Metasploitable does not really have a graphical interface. So there is nothing on the desktop. It's completely empty, no icons, no stuff, nothing. So this is just the kind of thing that it shows up in case there is nothing there. So it's just showing you this default Symbian for Debian, and it's giving you a shell access, however, a root shell on Metasploitable. So you can run your commands, you can do whatever you want on that system. You have root access. So again, since there is nothing actually to do on this system after you have root access, I'm going to close this. So like we've seen today, there are multiple ways of getting access to a system. There are multiple ways of hacking into a system. Okay, so and this is true for all CTFs, not just for Metasploitable. There might be multiple ways, multiple attack vectors that you can pursue, and you can use those attack vectors to gain entry into a system.
Sir, you explained about that payload. Is it play payload something you have
Mhm.
selected? Is it a terminal? What you have selected? That payload?
A payload basically specifies that what kind of code you want to execute, what kind of connection are you looking for in Metasploit. The kind of payload that you specifies, one thing is it you need to see what kind of shell you want. Either you want a regular shell or a special Metasploit shell, which is known as a meterpreter shell. Then you need to see what kind of system you are attacking. So if I'm attacking a Windows system, I'll need to consider that. If I'm attacking a Linux system, I'll need to make changes accordingly. Then you need to figure out whether you are looking for a bind shell or a reverse shell, whether you're looking for a TCP protocol, or in certain cases, whether you want to perform tunneling via HTTP. So there are lots of different payloads in Metasploit, and the only way that you're going to know them is by practicing, or when you're starting out, you can look them up online, see what kind of payloads are available, and based on your needs, based on the situation, based on what you are attacking, what your target is, you will be changing your payloads. So in the beginning, of course, it can get a little confusing because we are not familiar with the payloads that we have. But uh, as you keep using it, you'll get more and more familiar. So
And
now see in
reverse
this,
sorry, yeah,
yeah,
continuous.
no, you were saying something.
That reverse, what exactly does like reverse payload?
Reverse. Okay, okay. So are you aware that there are two kinds of shells, bind shells and reverse shells?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So now we don't really prefer using bind shells, and in the CEH course I mentioned this as well, that we don't prefer using bind shells. We want to use reverse shells. Okay, whenever we are trying to perform any kind of exploitation. So that reverse refers to a reverse shell. In a reverse shell, the connection is initiated by your target, and you are on the receiving end of that connection. So that connection is initiated by your target. You open a port on your system to handle that incoming connection, and once that is established, then after that session is established, it doesn't matter whether it's a bind shell or a reverse shell. But when the connection is initiated, reverse shells are better because they are more likely to be able to uh, bypass any firewalls, because those connections are initiated from within the target's network. But a bind shell is initiated from your system, and your target is catching that connection. It's handling that incoming connection. But a bind shell is more likely to be blocked by a firewall. That's why we always prefer using reverse shell for this kind of work. Okay.
Yeah, got it, sir.
So when you are specifying a payload, the word reverse will usually be a part of that somewhere within that payload. So usually at the end you specify what kind of shell you need, so you specify a reverse. So that signifies that it's a reverse shell. Again, the more you practice, the more you use this, you'll become familiar with it. It can look a little confusing, but don't worry about it.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we should wrap this up for today. And tomorrow we'll look at a couple of more ways for this one, and I'll start with the next machine.